Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's Dyknow Digest episode. Dyknow Digest is a weekly video newsletter where we answer questions from Dyknow users to help you use Dyknow better and in more creative ways in your classroom. Let's see what topic Maggie has for us today.
Hey Tiara, this week's question is from Sean Murphy. He had a bunch of questions, but we wanted to choose just one and we'll come back to other ones in another episode. He is a tech uncomfortable teacher and he wanted to know what the best uses and features for Dyknow were for tech uncomfortable teachers.
That's a great question. I think remote learning has brought on a time for a lot of tech uncomfortable teachers to have to use technology, and Dyknow is a great way to make them a little more tech comfortable. So I'm happy to run through kind of a Dyknow overview for tech uncomfortable teachers, as well as just an overview of what Dyknow can do and the kind of basic features that Sean can share with his colleagues for using Dyknow. So thank you, Maggie. Let's jump into that explanation.
All right, entry number 4 of the Dyknow Digest. Welcome back, everyone. I am excited to answer part of Sean's question. I know he asked a lot of questions in his comment, but I think this is a great question, especially given this time of remote and hybrid learning where a lot of teachers who might not be as comfortable with technology are now using technology. So from just a baseline, Dyknow can be a great way to help tech uncomfortable teachers use technology because it enables them to teach more confidently without distractions in the classroom and really hone in on those technology tools like Flipgrid, Wakelet, the tools they love using to enhance learning and make those tools more impactful because distracting sites are not being used in class. So to answer the first part of Sean's question, which was how can Dyknow teachers who are non-digital natives understand Dyknow and use Dyknow to the best of their capabilities? So for non-digital natives, Dyknow is fantastic and teachers don't need to be in the app or in Dyknow during class to make it useful. So for non-digital natives and tech uncomfortable teachers, I would recommend using passive monitoring with Dyknow to collect student activity information during class, but not necessarily actively blocking student device activity so that you are focused on the lesson that you're teaching and using the technology that maybe you're more comfortable with. So in order to do passive monitoring, we recommend just starting a monitoring session at the beginning of your class, letting that monitoring session run throughout your entire class, and then at the end of class, when you stop monitoring, you can go into the class history data and see what students were doing. So even though you weren't actively blocking sites, if students were distracted, you are able to see what sites they were on and then inform for your next class period. Maybe you want to set up a blocking plan to block those distracting sites. So I think for tech uncomfortable teachers, start with just passive monitoring in Dyknow and get used to collecting that information and seeing that information after class. And then I think we can work up to that, creating a blocking plan, and just create a blocking plan based off of a couple sites that you want to block. Implement and enforce that blocking plan during your class period. And same thing as passive monitoring, just let it run in the background. Dyknow will do its thing. It'll block those sites that you want blocked while still collecting that student activity history so that you can view class history after class. And maybe there's a gap in your blocking plan that you want to solution by adding some new sites to it that students were able to get to. So that's kind of an overview for non-digital natives and tech uncomfortable teachers to use Dyknow. The second part of Sean's question was common uses of Dyknow and kind of explaining what Dyknow does to teachers who are unfamiliar with it. So from a high level, Dyknow does 4 things. First and foremost, it enables teachers to use passive and active monitoring, which allows them to collect that student device activity during class, as well as have visibility into student screens during class so that they can understand what their students are doing, even if they're not in the classroom with students, if they're teaching virtually, or if they're not looking at student screens actively. So it's a really great way to aggregate all of your students into one place, see what they're doing. The next thing that Dyknow allows teachers to do is create and enforce blocking plans. So that is that next level where you can create what I like to think of as classroom level content filters for whatever activity or lesson you're doing for that day. So from monitoring to blocking, that allows you to understand what students are doing and block activity as you see fit with allow only or block only blocking plans throughout class. The third thing that Dyknow enables teachers to do is review class history. So reviewing class history enables teachers to view what students were doing during a class period over one class period or a certain amount of time, a month or a year, see it for individual students or the class as a whole to get insight into what your students are doing, learn maybe what students are falling behind because they're distracted, and kind of reinforce your blocking plans by adding sites that they might be getting to those blocking plans that you already have in place. And then the last way that teachers can use Dyknow, this is one way that's really become very popular during remote learning, is the student engagement and formative assessment capabilities within Dyknow. So this is these capabilities and these features really enhance how teachers can use it beyond just the blocking, monitoring, and class history. So teachers can use the send a message, check for understanding, and the Dyknow question bank features to really gauge student understanding during class, check in with students by sending messages, and send out questions to gauge where students are, and maybe ask, a poll of where students want to go to recess, or, things like that to engage students beyond just the class material. So I think that is a good overview of what Dyknow does from a high level for teachers who might not be as knowledgeable of Dyknow. I hope that answers your question, Sean, and we will definitely get to the rest of the questions that were in your comment because they're all great questions. So as always, don't forget to comment on this video with a question that you have about Dyknow, and we'll get that answered for you on one of our Dyknow Digest episodes. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss a thing, and we'll see you next week on the Dyknow Digest. Thanks for tuning in.